Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Enrichment, where we talk to small business owners and entrepreneurs on strategies and best practices. Although small businesses are often at a disadvantage when competing with the bigger companies, they can have one advantage. They can always be smarter than the competition. So let's get right to it. This week, our subject is business ethics. Tell you a little story. After my sophomore year in college, I had run out of money, so I had to take time off to earn enough money so that I could go back to school. So I took a job at a non-destructive testing laboratory, and they did subcontract work for a large defense industry company that builds, among other things, jet engines that power our fighter jets. Now, I hadn't been at the job too long when I was tasked with testing a certain component, not a jet engine component, just a widget, if you will. We had about 10,000 of these, and I was supposed to test 10% of them, so about 1,000. This task should have taken me a couple of days. So after I had tested maybe 100 or even 200 without any failures, the foreman told me that because I hadn't found any failures and they hadn't found any failures in the past, I was to wrap it up, sign off, and go on to something else. My company, however, still billed for the 2 days of my time and put me on another job where they could charge another client for my time. Well, I just assumed that's the way it was. So I kept my head down, and I spent about a year working there, saving my money, and I managed to go back to school and finish my degree. Now, obviously, I still remember that specific job because it was my first step down that slippery ethical slope. And as much as I hate to admit it, not my last. Now, in a Psychology Today article by Juliana Bryans, she lists several common ways that people justify unethical behavior, and all of them can be applied to your business. The first one she talks about is viewing that behavior as a gray area or morally ambiguous rather than clearly wrong. We do this by selectively interpreting the available information. 2, believing the behavior will benefit others, framing it as an act of altruism rather than self-interest. 3, highlighting moral credentials. Researchers call this moral licensing. This is where you say, well, yes, but I've done all these other wonderful things, so this one can slide. Another one, partially coming clean. This is one of my favorites. This is like telling a half-truth. People admit only to one part of what happened, particularly if that part is likely to be discovered. This also allows them to feel like they've restored their moral self-image while allowing them to avoid the consequences of a full confession. And finally, demonizing those who have done worse. This is the pot calling the kettle black syndrome. This is a common practice among politicians and is referred to as ethical distancing. Sort of the, yes, I did that, but look at them. Now, whatever justifications we use, this behavior is always, in the end, bad for business. When your clients find out, they will abandon you for someone else, unless they approve of your methods. In that case, how long will it be before they do the same to you? And what about your employees? if they see unethical behavior, they're more likely to mirror your unethical actions in their own dealings with clients and with you. As Dr. Brings concludes, quote, as long as we are motivated more by a desire to appear moral than to actually be moral, these self-serving justifications are unlikely to promote behavior that serves our long-term interests or those of our organizations and communities. Finally, to quote Epictetus, the Greek Stoic philosopher, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Well, I hope you got something out of that. I hope you found it useful. And if you'd like to discuss anything further regarding this topic or any small business strategy, reach out to me at rich@speakingofsuccess.us. I'd love to talk with you. Just use my calendar to schedule a time that is most convenient for you. That's it for this week. I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.